Welcome to People Who Design, a podcast with designers and builders shaping our world through the art and craft of design. I'm Cam Cress, and this week I interviewed my friend and designer, Andy Weir. I actually interviewed him in my very first episode about 6 months ago about being a design team of one, what it was like being a solo designer. This week we changed course a little bit, and he's been sharing a lot of content around how he's using Claude Code, how he's using GitHub, the terminal, and building things like his portfolio website, rebuilding it from scratch, how he's building side projects, a little side product that he launched. I was actually one of the first beta testers on it. So we go deep into kind of the workflow, how the landscape of design is changing. And it was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. And I hope you do too. So let's get into it. Cool. Andy, welcome back to the People Who Design podcast.
Thanks, man. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, for sure, man. The last time we talked was in the summer, and I wanted to have another conversation with you because we dove into the kind of your background story at that point on being a solo designer and your workflow and how your process was 6 months ago. And
Right.
since then, obviously, a lot has changed in the coding world, and this huge exponential increase in our tool set has gotten so much better. So now you can see kind of the shift from designers being in this lane, developers being in this lane, and now it's kind of even blurring the lines even more. And the power is at designers' fingertips now to be able to execute not only on the design side, but actually get this stuff built with tools like Claude Code, ChatGPT's Codex 5.3, Figma Make. These tools are just like exploded. So I saw last week you posted something around creating your own little side project on a recipe app, and I tested it out. And it looked awesome. So I wanted to have another conversation with you, just a deep dive on all of these tools and see what you're up to. And we can just kind of go from there.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me back. And I'm excited to talk about this. It's a scary landscape out there and daunting and intimidating. But, the best thing that we can do for ourselves and our future is to kind of just like go heads first, dive right in and just kind of get a little more comfortable and familiar with these tools.
We're constantly trying to figure out how this changes the process of designer execution, getting more comfortable on the terminal, which is very unfamiliar ground for a lot of designers, being able to do PRs for the first time, it's kind of a new world that we're living in. And the bulk of it is being handled pretty accurately by AI at this point. So I think not only has it changed the landscape for bigger teams and bigger companies to try to figure out, but really we're all still trying to figure this out. Getting in and learning it by doing it is typically the best way to learn. So I think you're kind of at the forefront of this stuff.
I've been very bullish and aggressive on professional growth and development over these past 5 years, I'd say. My whole career, but things have dramatically changed in terms of just the way that we work over the past 5 years, especially the past 6 months to a year. And I imagine in another 6 months to a year, they're going to be even completely different than they are today. And
For sure.
You mentioned something about just getting in and using these tools. And about a month ago, I was on a webinar learning about vibe coding 101. And as I was sitting in that webinar, I was like, I'm not really learning anything new that I haven't heard already. And I think there's value to a webinar like that. There's plenty of people out there that don't know anything about vibe coding, don't know anything about terminal or Claude Code or engineering or frameworks or technology or anything like that, but they're interested. And so I think there's a time and place for something like that. But because I've been so aggressive over the past few years, I was on that webinar and I was like, I'm wasting my time. Like I need to get off this webinar and go do something. And so I did that. I got off. I went to Claude Code, started having a conversation, and just was like, assume you are a senior product designer and you want to build your portfolio using these tools. Like, let's have this conversation. Ask me some questions. I really like to use Claude as this thought partner, rather than just like asking it one line questions and have respond with a direct answer. Because if you ask Claude Code, Lovable, Figma Make, whatever, to do something immediately, it will go do it, but it's not going to be informed or supported on any information. And so you have to give it that context. And so if you can use it as a thought partner to kind of like work through some problems that you're facing or what you're trying to achieve, I think it goes
That's
a long
awesome.
way.
So you're in this webinar, you're like, I'm learning the knowledge, but I want to be able to apply it to a real project. So
Mm-hmm.
what was your so you basically wanted to redesign your portfolio as kind of the first step into that?
Yeah. I was like, this is
Okay.
something like super personal for me and something that I can relate to. Um, and I'm going to have thoughts and ideas of like what I want to do here for this thing. It wasn't for any sort of like user that I was trying to satisfy, job requirements or anything like that. Like this is just for me.
Uh-huh.
And I also I was doing the AI coding for the designers course through Memorizely, and we had literally just started that course the day before. And so and a lot of that course is just like getting comfortable with terminal, GitHub desktop app, which we can get into and
Yeah.
talk about. If you're not comfortable using terminal, GitHub desktop app is a great user interface, especially for designers that aren't as comfortable with terminal or don't know the commands that you need to run. This kind of like changed a lot for me, and I've been using this a lot. And I don't have like one singular like process for anything. Like sometimes I use GitHub desktop app, sometimes I do use terminal, sometimes I use Claude Code in terminal, sometimes I use Claude Code in the Mac app. And it's just kind of like I'm
Wow.
testing everything just to kind of like see what my like preferred workflow is. Let me see if
So
I can.
before you kick this off,
Yeah.
what was your level on a scale from 1 to 10 of your knowledge of terminal and GitHub before you started doing this?
Um, my knowledge with terminal was very limited. I'd I've been attempting to familiarize myself with front end frameworks for basically my entire career over these past
Yeah.
10, 15 years. And terminal has always been a like scary, intimidating, daunting
Yeah,
place.
it is. Yeah.
And I had a call with someone at work, a principal front end engineer at work a few weeks ago, month ago maybe, and he helped walk me through a lot of the Git commands. And I've had multiple conversations like that with developers at work over the past 6 months, and I have this like running notes in my notes app that's just like Git commands, and I'm like
Nice.
trying to like group them and categorize them, and like this is what you do when you want to run the back end and the front end, and this is what you want to do when you want to pull or push or commit or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. um, and so I was constantly like tweaking that until I had this call with an engineer about a month ago, and he walked through like the whole process from start to finish and explained all the Git commands. And after that, I've been like I that's why I'm so comfortable with terminal now.
Nice.
I think I still, even after that call, I think I still prefer the GitHub desktop app. But at least when I see Claude Code running specific commands like git pull, git push, git commit, git whatever, I understand it and I recognize it rather than just like blindly hitting yes aggressively on in Claude Code for 15 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to you have to share out those GitHub commands that are useful to you.
I wrote an article about it a while ago, so I'll link
Okay,
to it,
cool.
or I'll send you a link so we can include it in the show notes.
Sweet. Cool. Yeah. So where do you want to kick this off? So you had a portfolio originally designed. You were using Framer for that, right? Um, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay,
Yep.
cool. And then so in this project, you just wanted to completely redesign it. So walk me through where you started in the design process. Did you conceptualize it? Did you start in Figma? Did you come up with
Nope.
any kind of design? Okay.
Nope.
So
Nothing.
walk me through your workflow.
Yeah, and I could have like I think that's a valuable workflow that I think I need to test and stretch is like trying to learn how to get something that's designed in Figma into code. I know there's the Figma MCP where you can select a frame in Figma and ask Claude Code to generate the design for you in code. I just haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
But because like my whole goal with this portfolio wasn't to design a portfolio. It wasn't to learn that workflow of getting from Figma to code. It was simply to get more comfortable and familiar with pushing to GitHub and deploying through Vercel. And then that loop, that feedback loop or cycle of iterating on it, right? Like
Yeah.
I didn't want to wait for my portfolio to be in a finished, complete, polished state before shipping it. I just wanted to iteratively improve it over time. So I could get comfortable with that process of creating branches and pushing those and deploying them.
Nice. Cool.
So I mean, I'm in Claude right now, the Claude Mac app, and this is where I started. This was my first prompt, and I know I alluded to this earlier, but this is my initial prompt. Assume you are a senior product designer. The goal is to create a portfolio for yourself using Cursor and Claude Code. Ask me one question at a time to better understand. And so it did ask me some questions, and I would just use natural language to explain what I wanted to do. There were some portfolios that I had seen lately that I gave as inspiration that influenced the design of it. But then since then, it's kind of evolved into what it is now, what you see here. And so I
Nice.
like that. It's not like I didn't like double down on any one portfolio and was like, this, I want to replicate this exactly. We're as creative as designers, it's important to take little pieces from everywhere, everyone, and be like, I like this about them and I like this about them. So we're not completely stealing other people's work.
Hmm.
It's part of the inspiration process of design.
Yeah, I think that's creativity in general, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
totally.
using what you can to repackage it in a different way.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so you started on essentially just a conversation. So Cursor has this mode where you can change it to an agent mode, or you can change it to like a plan mode. Does
Mhm.
does Claude Code have something similar to that?
Claude Code does, but I'm not in Claude Code yet. I'm just in
Okay, you're
Claude
just in.
Chat.
Got it. Okay.
So when I got to a certain point, Claude thought that wanted to help me build it, which like is true, but I didn't want to do it in Claude Chat. I wanted to do it in Claude Code, and so it
Yep.
started like listing what I needed, V and React and basic structure, components, styling, all that kind of stuff. And it started giving me commands to do in the terminal. But at that point, I ended up like abandoning it by ending the conversation with like, this isn't what I wanted to do or where I was heading, because I wanted to do it in Claude Code, not Terminal. I said, generate a role, task, context, constraints, and deliverable, which is a framework that I learned from Xander at Memorizely. And it basically kind of summarized our entire conversation into this clear, concise kind of like prompt, right? And so I took this prompt, the role, task, context, constraints, and deliverable, and then I went into Terminal, went into Claude Code mode in Terminal, and enabled plan mode there. And I pasted this in plan mode, and then it asked me a couple other questions. And then that's where I started kind of tinkering and iterating from there. So I never really came back to chat after this. I just fully committed to working in Claude Code at that point.
Okay. Cool. So how was the first kind of output of that? Was it fairly accurate to that original intention? What was the kind of the first thing, and how much did you like, what was the next step there?
It was like just the amount of energy that was like going through my body, because of the output that it just created in general. Like, it was electrifying. It's become this like very addictive, trait of mine of like, I can go from like just words to something that's prototyped and, easily deployable within just a few words.
It's amazing.
Trying to find, I've been like very active posting just like screenshots over time. So if we go back far enough, where are we at? I don't think I had anything at this point. So here, BRB, working on a new portfolio, building it in Cursor and Claude Code. And so this like first version was just like a very like vanilla style, right? Like it just had a header, some filters, a feed. I wanted this to be feed style. I wanted to be able to like iteratively over time add new work to this. I didn't want it to be like super bogged down in like process driven case studies. I just wanted it to be simple, high level, like show some visuals, explain briefly the narrative, because I know realistically, like that's what hiring managers are looking for. Hiring managers are looking at Feather. We're interviewing for a product designer right now.
And nice. Congratulations. So you're no longer going to be the solo designer.
Nope. Yeah, a little update since the last call that we had, the last conversation that we had.
That's awesome.
So, like we have 400 applicants, and like it's very hard to like stay on top of all of those as a hiring manager, to be able to look through 400 resumes that are just like process driven and a lot of text, and just like at a high level, you go to their portfolio. How is a designer representing themselves? How are they, trying to showcase the work in as brief as possible? And so that was my whole goal here. Kind of get away from the like process driven and word driven narrative of these case studies.
Yeah. Okay. So now that you're on that side of the fence, the hiring side of it, has your opinion changed on how to position a portfolio? And be honest, like how many seconds do you spend looking at someone's portfolio? I found, because I asked that question because I found myself like in the same situation, trying to, we post a job, there's thousands of applicants. How do I go through it? I'm literally spending maybe 5 to 10 seconds at most on it. And if it doesn't capture something, I don't know how to like put that into words, but if it just doesn't, if it's falling flat, boom, on to the next one. How have you kind of changed your mind about portfolios in general?
Yeah, I think this workflow and this process of working on my portfolio for the past month has really helped shaped and prepare me for this process of hiring a designer and looking at portfolios and resumes. It's changed a lot. It's shifted dramatically, because like now that I've focused so much time and energy on not just the case studies, but the interactions as a whole, like the case studies are almost like a byproduct of my portfolio. Like my
Mm-hmm.
portfolio is a case study itself, and just like what I've done to kind of do this. And one of my like favorite features that I added is this resume button. This isn't just downloading a PDF that I have to like manually upload every so often to stay up to date. And this is resolving the pain point of having to update a million different things. Your portfolio, your resume, your LinkedIn. Like there are so many things that you have to manage and keep up to date. I was like, what? And I went to Claude Code and I was like, I want to add a download resume button, but it's not just downloading a PDF, it's scanning my entire portfolio at that point in time and downloading a unique resume based on the content that's on my portfolio. And so
Oh, that's
this
cool.
alleviates having to upload or keep a resume up to date. I just have to
Nice.
focus on keeping my portfolio up to date.
Nice. I like that. So what's the output of that when you click on the button? Is it generated in a PDF based
So
on?
there's this is a PDF. And so it pulls my summary from my description here, pulls my title and my title and contact information and location from some metadata that's stored. Experience is being pulled from the about page. Selected projects is case studies, notable clients is on the about page, and skills and tools is on the stack page.
Nice. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you see
resumes
down
need to
here.
be rethought, right? Like I think this is probably a pretty good method of, like it's like updating at that point in time,
Yeah.
and accounting for the other thing too. I really like about your portfolio is you're incorporating side projects as well and showing
Mhm.
showing that as part of just what you do, which
Yeah.
is awesome. And those are real things that you can link to, not just static designs, which are really cool.
Yeah. These like dither tools and ASCII art were really fun projects to kind of like work through. And just this stuff is just like inspired by like scrolling on Twitter and just like seeing what other people, other designers are doing. And like trying to figure out like how to build this myself. Again, like not by writing any single line of code, but just like using natural language to do these things.
What was the process of doing this dithering tool? Like, how did you do that? Like, what did you show it references? What kind of prompt did you use? Did you use any design at all, like any custom design in Figma, or was it purely just prompting?
I know that this might begin to sound like a like beating a dead horse, but like I did not do anything in Figma for my portfolio.
So
Let
is
me
Figma dead or what? Like, what's going on?
I don't think Figma is necessarily dead. Like there's still
Yeah.
like workflows and process that are incredibly valuable. There's this Figma console MCP. I don't know if you've heard of it or messed around with it at all. But I have this I know I've kind of like derailed the conversation a little bit,
No,
but
that's cool.
I have this ShadCM community library, and we have this documentation sheet with this primary component kind of nested in here, and then some instances kind of like scattered throughout. But when you duplicate this and want to switch it to dark mode, which dark mode's already kind of like built up and structured in the variables, what this does under the hood is it just creates another primary component. And I figured out this workflow the other day. And so I don't want it to create another primary component. I want it to
Uh-huh.
like replace the primary component with instances of the primary component. And so obviously like there's a lot of components here and it'd be very tedious to kind of like go through that process. And so with the Figma console MCP, I have this frame selected. Let me pull up terminal. and I'm gonna go out just to, I don't think that matters, but I don't want to be in any specific project. And I have this prompt already written. Duplicate my current section to the right, switch the mode to dark, and replace my components on the dark mode with instances from the primary components in the light mode version. Once the instances are in place, they should be using the dark mode. And I guess before I do that, I also want to like make sure this Figma console MCP is working. Sometimes it's a
So it's
little buggy.
actually Claude is actually going into your Figma at this point.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like this is valuable to like connect to a code base and be like, all right, Claude Code is connected through the Figma console MCP, scan my entire code base and create a component that maps to what the component looks like in the code base. Because I still think there's value to like iterating and exploring and ideas in this infinite canvas. And we're just struggling to like figure out where the like overlap is without having to use these third-party tools like MCPs and stuff like that, which like maybe we never get away from. But all right, so Figma console MCP looks like it's connected. Sometimes it will say that it's not, and all you have to do is close this and then reopen it, which this is just a development manifest JSON file that is on my computer locally, and you can get it from TJ Petre's GitHub right here. We can link to this in the show notes. It goes into detail what you need to do. Sometimes I'll just like go into Claude Code and give them this link and say like install this for me. But it is very like thorough and explains what you need to do. You'll need to create a token from Figma and add that to the Figma access token. Yeah, and need to make sure that the Figma MCP is installed. So
Okay, so once people install this, what does that enable them to do at that point?
so it enables to basically allow Claude Code to speak to your Figma file and write to it directly. Like the Figma MCP, not the Figma console MCP, just the regular Figma MCP out of the gate will take your screens and reproduce them in code in Claude Code. But this kind of works the other way. And I know Figma and Claude Code just released recently that kind of like reverse workflow as well. But
Yeah,
it's not the way that I understand it is it's not like actually reading your code base. It's just writing to
rebuilding the components based on that.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think this is still way more valuable right here at this point in time. And so now that I've kind of given that context, pull terminal back up, and I'm going to run that command. And this might take a little while, so we can kind of come back to it.
Okay,
But yeah,
that's awesome.
see if
Okay,
we
so
can kinda-
a few questions on the Claude terminal. So first of all, you need to install Claude Code onto your local environment, right? So once you do that, what's the kind of, are you using the desktop app at all, or are you prompting also in the terminal for Claude Code here? Like what's the kind of workflow?
um, like I said a little bit ago, like I'm kind of bouncing back and forth. Like I've definitely worked in Claude Code in the Mac app, which is a great GUI just to kind of like familiarize yourself with like what branch you're working in and making sure you're like creating a new branch, and it has buttons for everything that you need to do, like committing and creating a PR and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes like it's just, I don't know, like if I have terminal open already, like and I know how to work here, like I will. And let's see here.
It's just such a crazy world to me because, like for the past 10, 15 years, we've thought of starting the design process from a purely contextual and visual point of view. It's like,
Yeah.
what are we trying to design? And that usually started with some sort of like low fidelity wireframe structure where you can get at least a framework in place for what you're trying to design. And then from there, higher and higher levels of fidelity would ensue afterwards. And now we're in this world where that's completely almost reversed and flipped on its head, where we're now able to go extremely high fidelity and build the thing. It's almost like if you're working with an engineer and they just build whatever whatever they want, and then you refine it afterwards. So to you, where do you think, is there a one size fits all design process anymore, or is it just like,
No.
figuring out as you go, you're peeling back the layers of the onion, whether you start on the visuals or whether you start in the code? Like, how do you think about that now?
Yeah, I don't think there's a one size fits all, at least at this point in time. I think each project that you work on has to be tailored and crafted based on the needs of the project. Like if you have something that's already existing, like a shell or a framework or an app, and you want to just like, exactly what needs to be added, like why not just go straight to the code base and add that feature? But if you're like still very like broad, vague, the app doesn't exist, the feature doesn't exist, um and you're like in this exploratory phase, like maybe something like building something in code can be difficult because you might not have the right words to describe what you're trying to explore. And maybe that's just a sign of like you haven't done enough research. And so like maybe we're not even talking about the design process, which like research is definitely a part of, but you're still like too early on and you still need to like work through the problem that you're trying to solve in more of like a thought experiment, which Claude is a great,
Yeah.
researcher on that side of things. So
Yeah, for sure. I think that, have you explored that new product, a pencil that hit the market a few weeks ago? They've been
pencil,
working on it for a while.
or paper.
Um,
I know there's both, and I know paper just came out of this beta or whatever this past week, and they have like a team of agents that can go into a file through an MCP and create a bunch of stuff like independently.
Good
But
question.
I know there's pencil too. A buddy of mine was talking about that, but I haven't tested that product out at all.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is. I think it is pencil.
Okay.
I forget
No.
he was on Rid. I forget his name. I'm terrible. But he was talking about this like world where there's still a place for the canvas, and it's basically like a Figma replacement is essentially what they're trying to do, but it's much more ingrained into the agent driven build process, where it sits on top of the AI tools and enables you to go back and forth more fluidly. That's the idea, I think, for the most part. I haven't used it yet, but it's interesting because it's like I think there is that world of like outputting something in code and then refining it visually, or being able to use the canvas in a way that will allow you to duplicate ideas and just expand on different versions of it. And the big question there too is, I think designers, especially on design teams that are working on legacy products, there's the single source of truth is the product itself, is prod. And when we live in Figma 100% of the time, there's a level of abstraction there that doesn't get translated ever. It's like
Yeah.
Figma never really 100% matches what's in production by the time it's live. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting time because you're trying to figure out a way of building on top of production. And I think, these tools are the worst they ever will be right now. It's just going to get better and better. So Yeah, being on the forefront of that question is very interesting. Where were we? Where do you want to pick up at?
Um, well, I see here in Figma and in the terminal that this component got done. So I guess, we
Yeah,
can
let's
see
dive
like
in.
that it completely duplicated this screen. It switched it to dark mode. I didn't do any of this manually. Claude Code in the through the terminal did it. And so if I dive in, you can see that this is an instance of the component, and that just like saved me so much time on one component. And that was just like a couple minutes, right?
Wow.
And then like to go through like the entire file and do that will take some time, but it's going to be a lot less time than it would if I was doing all of this manually. And I think that's
Man,
the
that
value of all
yeah.
these tools is like, don't use these tools to replace the creative process of the thing that you love to do the most. Use AI to help you through the things that are tedious, cumbersome, or things that you just like aren't good or strong at, right? And not that like
Yes.
I'm not good or strong at like replacing components, but like that is definitely a representation of something that
Tedious.
is tedious.
Yeah.
It's not good
I
use of
get I
time.
get bored. Yeah,
It's
so
not
quickly.
helping the bottom line of like meeting the customer's needs, right? Like how
Yeah.
can we get this from Figma to production more quickly, more efficiently, so that we can focus on the true problem of solving our customers' problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that the that inherit. You're totally right. It's removing that busy work, redundant kind of stuff. I found myself like in the variables panel setting up the primitives and setting up the semantic values on a little side project that I was working on. And there may be, plugins or workarounds that I'm not aware of that make it easier. But I found myself just like copying and pasting hex values. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I spending my time going through each one of these? And that is, yeah, that's uh, the friction point, I think, within the designer realm that should be eliminated, because then we can focus on more important things, like you said, like, does this feature actually make sense? Should we actually build it? What should we build? Do users understand? Those big fundamental questions are where I think designers should spend most of their time at.
Yeah. And that's a conversation that I'm having with people at work. I know a lot of people are having with people at their jobs, is like I'm getting asked like, why do I want to use our code base? Why do I want to use these AI tools? And I'm like,
Mm,
because I can focus on a problem that a customer is having and produce something that is interactive so much quicker than I can in Figma in an infinite canvas where it's just static screens. And then you can ask the question like, well, why not in Figma Make? And Figma Make isn't yet at the point where it's using actual components from your code base. It
yeah.
is heavily influenced by a library that you have in Figma, but it's not even using components exactly from there. And I will use Figma Make every once in a while. Like when I have a screen in Figma, and I get feedback from my product manager, and I just want to kind of iterate on um, that piece of feedback. Like the context is already in Figma. Like
Yeah.
take that screen, move it to Figma Make, take the feedback from your product manager, paste it in the prompt, and see what it produces and if it inspires anything. It's going to be so much harder to like go to Codebase and generate something that looks like this Figma screen. Granted, I could use the Figma MCP, but like I think that's just like too much effort. Like we
Yeah.
need to be generating these things as quickly and as efficiently as possible, and we have to evaluate where we're at in the design process and choose the tool based on that.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree. I think all of these tools, even like the Figma prototyping, static designs, that method was just a form of communication too. It's like we're trying to communicate the intention of a design through these static screens, and now it's just so much better if you can plug into like what the actual data. Like for the longest time, we were like, static screens will give you a directional signal, but it doesn't feel real because there's no data tied to it. There's not real data that's in the prototype. Now with these tools, we can communicate. We can use them as communication devices, whether we're communicating it to the developer or the product team or to the end user. It's
Right.
still a method of communication, and that the increase in fidelity of that is just getting better and better. So yeah, totally agree with you. What
And
back to the I do have a
sorry.
question. Yeah, I do have a question on
Yeah.
the resistance maybe that you get like from wanting to do these things on your own. Do you find like there's a barrier around that, like structurally, like
Can you ask the
on the
question
team?
a different way?
Like
Sorry.
say you want to start playing around with production, right? Like
Yeah.
you have the ability to now design something instead of just trying to do it in Figma. Well, you can do it in Figma, but pulling down the real code base, forking it, making some changes to it, then showing them there. Like, is there a resistance in allowing designers to do that, you think? Um,
It's kind of split right now. Like some are like enthusiastically supportive, and then others are kind of resistant and afraid of kind of like what that looks like and what that means. And maybe the code base isn't like up to par, and so we're
sure.
worried about what the output of the code is going to produce. Um, but ultimately, like whether you use my branch or don't use my branch is up for you to decide as a developer.
100%.
Um,
Yeah.
but if I can create a branch and produce a prototype in my isolated environment that's influenced and inspired by our code base, then I would love to use that as a design artifact that I then hand off to a
Yeah.
developer. The problem there is like there's so many edge cases and error states and
Yeah.
other cases that like it's going to be hard for a developer to catch all those things. Whereas like in Figma, the argument right now is like you can explicitly document all of those edge cases in Figma. The problem I have with that is I might miss something. And maybe that's like a
For sure.
flaw in the user scoping process, or just like, being a human designer that you're going to miss things. Things are going to slip through the cracks. Whereas like AI might instinctively kind of catch those things. Um, so
Okay, cool. Yeah, you want to get back into I know we deviated, but
yeah,
which is
you
great.
want
Very valuable.
yeah, you want to talk about the recipe project?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Give us a background of that. Like how did you start thinking about that? Who was the user in the use case here that you're
Yeah.
trying to design for? Yeah, maybe bring us up to speed on that.
Yeah. So my wife loves to cook. She loves to bake. She'll see recipe ideas on Instagram all the time, and she'll like them, she'll save them, she'll store them in Pinterest. But the problem and pain point is that anytime she's in the kitchen wanting to make any one of these recipes, she has to go hunting for it, whether she's going on Instagram or Pinterest to find this recipe. And then once she finds the recipe, it opens this video and she's just watching this video on loop. And I understand from a content creator why that's a great approach, because it's just skyrocketing their views because you're just watching this video over and over and over again. But it's in the kitchen, it's going to be way more practical and beneficial to be able to see the list of ingredients and the steps that it takes in an isolated environment. And so I had a conversation with her, and she was telling me that she wants a solution for reading those recipes while cooking in the kitchen that she saved from Instagram. So I came to Claude chat, and I was using, what's the Whisperflow. Do you use Whisperflow?
I've heard of it. I've downloaded it. I haven't spent much time on it. I've heard people talking about it though.
It's great. I love it. You can hold the function key and just talk, and it will add it to an input. We can just like think so much better when we're able to just like talk rather than like the medium being broken between our brain and our fingers.
Yeah.
Like, how do I want to craft this? And then like also just from like having a conversation or like doing a user interview, like just like feed all of that context. But since she was sitting right next to me, I just turned on Whisperflow and held the function key down and let it listen to our conversation. There's also a little floating button here that you can press to do that as well. But
like within Claude?
no, within Whisperflow.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And the reason what like some AI tools have that built-in like audio feature, others don't. The thing I like about Whisperflow is it's one tool and used at the system level, and I can use it no matter where I'm at, and I don't have to like retrain the mental model of like how is it done in this app compared to another app.
So it just like will pull in the transcripts of that. Does it clean it up? Does it like organize it better? Does it do any of that?
Whisperflow, like if you say something and then you're like, oh, I meant to say this other thing, I think it usually does clean it up. In this case, it literally just like transcribed exactly what I said. But let's say, hey, do you want to meet at 8? Actually, no, 8:15 would be better.
Doing it live.
Do you want to meet at 8:15? It just like got rid of 8 as a
that's cool
option in general. So
okay, cool. So you
like
use Whisperflow to then interview your wife of this user experience. So that you basically then took those transcripts, and then what did you do next?
I fed it to Claude and I said, generate a role, task, context, constraints, and deliverable. Again, going back to that framework that I learned from Xander at Memorizely. And so it took that and summarized it into this prompt. Role, product designer, responsible for end-to-end product definition. Task, define the product requirements for a mobile-first web application that allows users to save Instagram recipe videos. And context, the primary users, home cooks, core pain points. Like it does such a like great job at like summarizing everything from the conversation. And the ultimate goal is to create this deliverable, a PRD covering the core user flows. And so once it created that, I said, start drafting the PRD, and it creates this artifact that you can then open as a Google Doc or in Pages, but it will also open in Claude Chat. And this is just a PDF, and it has the summary, the problem statement, gets into the target user, personas, behaviors, breaks down the epic and user stories, acceptance criteria.
This is replacing product managers.
I know.
Did you edit any of this?
A lot of this like process is like what some product managers that I know do also. So like, I don't know if it's necessarily replacing product managers. It's just making me more of a product manager. And like these tools are also making product managers more of a designer or an engineer. And I'm also becoming a little bit more of an engineer. Not like a true software engineer that's writing this code, but like I'm a prompt engineer. I'm a design engineer.
Yeah. It's like almost like a curation engineer, right? It's like you're curating the engineering side from these outputs of these tools, which is kind of crazy. That's interesting. I would love to dive into that topic maybe at a later time too. Around just the role changes and what you're seeing. I can speak from my experience, and just we're all trying to figure that out too. It is a weird kind of place to be. It's like, what is a product manager now? What is a designer? What is an engineer? What's a design engineer? All these terms are changing so fast, and the lanes have been crossed over in a good way. I've always been a fan of like never really defining uh job titles, job definitions, right? It's like it's okay for designers to want to code something. It's okay for engineers to want to design something,
Yeah.
and I feel like when those lines are blurred more, the teams just operate from a standpoint of like non-ownership. We all own the output of this thing.
Yeah.
We're all working together on this thing. I think it's a good thing. I don't know about you, but
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it's great, and like to be able to break down the barriers between all of our roles and be able to collaborate a lot more closely, I think is the end goal. Like you think back over the past
yeah,
20 years when product design wasn't what it is now. And we were more of a web designer, and we were scrappy, and we did a little bit of everything. We did product management, we designed it, we developed it, we built the thing. We would design in code. Like we're reverting back to that, but the tooling has become so much more valuable. But over the past
absolutely.
20 years, Figma evolved into what it is now because it was a replacement tool for that collaboration, that handoff. And that's what created this whole specialized approach. You're the product manager, you're the designer, you're the developer.
Yeah,
But now we're able to kind of like break down all of that. Roles are getting stripped back down to the core like basics and fundament, the 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 foundation of what we're trying to do, build something. There's a
absolutely.
podcast that I listened to, Lenny's podcast, who he used to be a
Yeah,
product manager at Airbnb. It's
he's great.
is it called Lenny's podcast?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just called Lenny's podcast. And the term that I've heard on a few of his episodes is uh, product builder. I think is what they're
Mm,
saying, or what they're calling
I
it.
like
And
that.
you're not a product manager. You're not a designer. You're not an engineer. You are a product builder. We're all working together on building this product in whatever way
Yeah, I love
our
that.
like
And I'll go publicly on record. I can't wait till the day that agile dies. Like, to be honest with you, I think that agile development is just like a dinosaur of the past. It's created these confined lanes of how you should be working, and this heavy process on following the steps where teams inherently fall into not the question of whether they're building the right thing, but are they doing the process the right way, which is
mhm.
just ridiculous. And then, so I think, story points and creating all these just the dogmatic process of agile, um, that seems to be cracking. And we're going back to like the builder. Like when you can create an environment where it feels like a startup inside of a larger organization, I think that's the place to be, because it's like
Yeah.
we're building this thing together, and we're going to execute it and do it together. So yeah, side note, but yeah, I'll get off the agile hate.
No, I think there's definitely some value to that and some truth to that. There's this tool that I've been using called Dessin, Dessn. It's a AI startup that is connecting to GitHub, to your code base, and you just prompt it, and it's being influenced by components that are actually in your code base.
Mm,
Um, and so it's a wildly like cool tool to use and be able to hand off this as an artifact, a prototype link to the front end developers, which we've did recently. And that prototype gives you a visual of what the feature looks like,
oh, that's
and
cool.
then it also gives you code of what it's actually doing. And so the developer could make the decision to just like find the files that that code impacts and add it to the code base, and then create a PR and push it and all that. Or they can just use it to kind of like influence what the feature is trying to accomplish. But I'm in like their beta kind of their their beta list of users. And so I'm in a Slack with the founders, and in prototype mode, I think there's like an avatar for me, but I'll share this link with some other people. And I want to know if people are actively looking at it, if they have looked at it recently. And so I just shot the founder a message, Gab, shout out to Gab. And I was like, hey, like it'd be really cool if I could see this. I sent that message at 2:05 p.m. and by 2:20 p.m. that feature was shipped. And there was no
Wow.
process involved in that. Like had an idea, I shared that, and they implemented it and got it into
That's
production
crazy.
within a 15, maybe 20 minutes
Wow.
top kind of cycle. And so I think that like as a user, as a customer, I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Like, how can we provide like what they just did to me, to my customers, to your customers?
100%. Man, that's awesome. That's such a, what's the name of the product?
Dessin, Dessn. We
Okay,
include a
cool.
link to the in the show notes.
I think being in organizations like a startup environment like that, where it's like, here's a real valid customer insight. We can decide to execute that and just build it into the product. Or we can take these insights and verbally discuss it in the next 20 meetings that we have over the next 2 weeks. Like
Yeah.
it's like, or you could just do the thing. And I think there was a study I was reading. I think maybe Figma put it together. It was a survey on like burnout, organizational burnout, and it was talking about like designers are at the top of the list in company burnout. And it's interesting to like unpack that a little bit. And it's like, why is that? And I think it has to do with that. It has to do with like, we are trying to do something and it's requiring so much effort to explain it, to justify our decisions, to validate it with research, to like paint the picture. And that's where most of the energy gets inputted into. And
Yeah.
now, like you said in this example, it's like that, just like, let's hear from our customer. Let's just build it and see what happens. And that mentality is a shift in the
Yeah.
right direction. Like, so,
Absolutely.
yeah. So back to the recipe vault.
Yeah.
Is that the name, by the way? That's what you're calling it?
It's what Claude called it, and so
Okay.
we'll call it that for now. But at this point, I copied this whole thing. I wasn't able to add a PDF to Claude Code or in Terminal, or well, I might be able to add a PDF in the Claude Code Mac app. But in this case, I just copied all the text here. I enabled plan mode, which is done by Shift Tab. So by default, it's on accept edits on, but if you do Shift Tab, it will switch to plan mode. And so just make sure you're Shift tabbing until you see that plan mode on. And I just
Nice.
pasted this in there. And within I don't know how long it was. I mean, it might have been like 30 minutes of, kind of just like going back and forth, answering some questions, accepting um, some prompts that it would give me. It had produced basically the first version of it.
Wow. And
And then,
Andy, just to be
yeah,
clear, so this is Shift Tab is in the terminal,
yes,
right?
yeah,
To change it to plan mode. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So if I'm in code, it by default is on ask permissions or auto accept edits, one of these two. But you can also switch to plan mode here as well. Just
Cool.
make sure you are in the right folder and you are creating a branch of your work, and you're not pushing to main, which I know we haven't like gotten much
Into
into
workflow.
the
Yeah.
the workflow of GitHub desktop app, but by default you're on main or dev. You can create a branch and name this whatever you want and kind of go through that process there. But you also want to make sure that you're fetching, you're pulling if there's any updates that someone else made to your repo, so that you have the most up-to-date version. And then once you make your changes, you can commit from here too. So you create a summary description and you can just commit to main.
And this is the GitHub desktop app,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So what
Yeah.
is your kind of workflow between, prompting in the terminal and then using the the desktop app for GitHub? How do you go back
Uh,
and forth typically?
so honestly, like I will use the GitHub desktop app to like manually make sure like I am in a new branch.
Hmm.
I rarely ever like create the commit from here just because in Claude Code, as
You
long
could
as your
just do it
CLI is
directly.
connected, you can
Yeah.
just do it directly and you just say commit, and it'll commit. You can say push, it'll push. You can say create a PR, it'll create a PR. And then you open GitHub and you accept and merge it into um, your dev environment.
Nice. Okay, cool. So back to recipe vaults. So it
Yes.
outputted the PRD. You have the PRD now. What?
So once it's actually like produced my app, then like I am in my local host and I am testing it and tinkering on it, and I'm like, it might be like visual style. And I haven't. My wife hasn't used this yet. I need to
Ooh.
get her
Okay.
to use it to then like iterate on it and add, kind of like her expectations and features that she would desire. So basically it's a list of your recipes. You have your library. I have a couple examples in here. Something's happening with the images and aren't loading. But you open it, you have a preview of the video itself, which you can click and it will open in Instagram. There's some APIs that I had to get keys for and integrate using Supabase for authentication and pulling some of this information from the video itself. It's intended to grab a transcript from the video itself as well as read the caption, because sometimes the caption has like a fully detailed list of ingredients and steps, but not all the time, and sometimes it's more spoken in the video. And so you have a list of your ingredients and your instructions. You can start cooking. You can go through and make sure you have all the ingredients, and then you can start the steps or switch over to steps, and it will kind of break down what steps you need to do. So you can get through all of this, and once you're done, all done, and then it kind of goes back. But there was I shared it with you. You had some thoughts and
Yeah.
ideas. I have the transcript from the Loom video that you shared with me. Could be cool and fun just to riff on some of this feedback that you have.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So yeah, my initial I downloaded, well, I got access to it. I signed up through the sign up, and then I got sidetracked. I was on the desktop, but I wanted to use it in the mobile, so I went back to the phone. And I actually found a few recipes from this guy named Hunter Shreds is his Instagram handle. I was actually, I played golf with him. That's how I found out about him. So I looked up his Instagram, and he's got like a few million followers, which is kind of crazy. But he posts these recipes all the time, and I'm like, oh man, that sounds pretty good. I would like to make that at some point, but then I never do. Because you'd have to, like, I think that is a real problem that you described, is like I'd have to go back to that one specific recipe. I could bookmark it in Instagram if I wanted to, but having it here. So I uploaded that link. I just copied that share link, pasted it into your app, and I was pretty surprised how well it did. It broke down the entire ingredient list. It broke down the steps. You had a little check mark next to the ingredient list that you could check off, which is very helpful. And it broke it in. What I liked about it is it broke into those specific steps. If you started the recipe and started working on it, which I'm not a good chef, to be honest with you, but
But
it
maybe
makes a lot of sense.
maybe that's a core user, a core persona of
Yeah.
like someone that's not like a great chef, and this kind of like helps extract the kind of stress and pressure and anxiety of like being in the kitchen while also like trying to watch this video, but being overwhelmed and overstimulated of the video and audio playing from the video. And so this just kind of like breaks it down in a like more isolated environment.
I love it. Yeah, I've always kind of thought about design from the standpoint of like, designing for some sort of larger audience. And it's harder to define what a large audience means. But when you can actually find one user and solve their particular problem, that is probably much more valuable than trying to design for this like abstract persona, where like in this case, your wife, it's like, here's a problem. Does this solve her problem? Yes or no? And if it solves
Right.
her problem, chances are it's going to solve a lot of other people's problems too, So I'm
Yeah.
a huge fan of just finding a single user like this. And yeah, this is great. So what did you learn from that initial build?
Um, it was definitely like some vanilla UI, and so I ended up kind of going back and applying some more styles and giving it a little more personality. I think there's still definitely plenty of room to grow and expand that, but I want to make sure that I'm focusing on the actual core functionality of it rather than the
Yeah.
design of it, which kind of brings me to some of the feedback that you gave. And so I grabbed the caption from the Loom video that you shared, and I gave it the context of assume you're a product owner. The goal is to synthesize this feedback into actionable feedback. Again, generate a role, task, context, constraints, and deliverable. So it did, and I got this prompt that it produced for me, this feedback synthesis. And I'm going to go to the terminal. I'm in recipes. I'm in my project. Actually, can't forget, got to create a new branch. We'll call this People Who Design.
Nice.
All right. So that's good now. We're in the right branch. So now I can come back here. And if I'm actually in code, Claude Code, select recipes, select People Who Design, it automatically shows up there, so you can select it. If you want to work in this workflow, you can, and then just switch to plan mode and paste that in. But I'm going to use the terminal. So I'm in plan mode, shift tab, remember, paste that in, pasted text, 56 lines. So that's all in there, and now it's sock hopping, as they say. So this might take
Nice.
a little while.
So you just want to make sure you're in the right branch and folder before.
You want to make sure you're in the right branch, and plan mode produces so much better results than actually asking.
And what's so if the prompt is tab shift tab for plan mode, how do you go back to the agent or build mode? Or does it do it automatically? Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And sometimes I've noticed when I'm just like in grind mode or focus, like, and I am in ask edits, if I give it like a big prompt like this, it will kind of often predict that it should go to plan mode, and it will do it automatically.
Okay, cool. Sweet.
But I don't want to rely on Claude making that decision for me. I want to make that decision myself.
Nice. Okay. So what after this step, while it's building, then you can push to local hosts, right? Test it on local before you.
Well, I won't have to push to localhost. It will automatically update
Local.
as soon as this is done. It'll say, you can go test it now. So I'll open up localhost and kind of click around. But what can you kind of give a summary of like some of your feedback and like what you thought?
Yeah, sure. So the first piece, like in terms of the user experience, I would think that reducing the sign up barrier at the beginning might be useful to introduce people to the app instead of having to create an account before I know what the product is. Like, can I just get in and upload a recipe as maybe the first piece of that? That was my kind of, I know you're just kind of constructing the scaffolding, which is awesome because you create an account and I have an account, but maybe push that back later. That's just my opinion. The second thing that I recall was just what do you do next? Like you have the structure now where it's like, I think it's the recipe page, right? On the main recipe page. Then what's the center tab? I don't have the feedback in front of me right now, but
Import.
yeah, import. Import could probably be a function on that main page.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be its own tab.
Yeah, I've
You know,
thought about that. I've tried to like, do I do a floating action button in the bottom right corner? Do I add a button up here? I want to make like, if you're on
exactly.
a
Yeah.
phone, like I want it to be like reachable. Granted, like when you are cooking, like often your phone is just kind of like propped up somewhere, and so you might just be using your index finger rather than like holding in in your hand, and so maybe
Yep.
like placement of that button isn't as like critical to think about. But
If you go natively too, one you know how like when you share something and you have an option of sharing it through a text message on the share screen on native iOS, or sharing it through Slack, sharing it to Recipe Vault. So if I'm on Instagram and I click share and it pulls up the share panel, send it directly to Recipe Vault there.
yeah,
I'm not
yes,
sure if I wrote that there, but yeah, like if you built it natively, then you could push that there,
right.
which would be dope.
Yeah,
Um,
that's something that I haven't really dug into is like anything native. Like everything
yeah,
I'm making is just like web-based React apps.
nice. Yeah, overall though, I think it's pretty sick. I actually shared it with my wife, and she's like, I would use it, so I'll get another user for you.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, this is awesome. So thank you so much for sharing the workflow and just how you're using these tools and what's your next step? Like what's your next kind of learning journey here?
With Recipe Vault or just
Yeah,
my
Recipe Vault or just like your side projects in general, like your work at Feather, like how are you what's kind of the next evolution? If we talk in 6 months from now, what do you
well, yeah, I mean, like you can plan for the future as much as you want, but like if you asked me 6 months ago, like what I would be doing today, like it's not what I'm doing. And so, yeah,
true?
and that's kind of the approach that I've had most of my career is the tools are constantly evolving and changing, and we have to have a open mind and learner's mentality to be constantly learning new things because that's the only consistent thing over the past 10-15 years of doing this is just like there is no consistency. Things are constantly evolving and changing. And so sure, like as designers and creatives, like it's a stereotype for us to have imposter syndrome. I experience imposter syndrome all the time. Um but I also have this like chronic desire to like learn new things, and so those two things like often clash with each other because I'm learning so much that I know nothing about, and it's hard to talk about these things with people when you don't know about these things. But got to have an open mind and learner's mentality, be an early
Yeah.
adopter of these things. I said it in the last episode. I'm going to say it again. We're not going to lose our job to AI. We're going to lose our job to people that are using AI more efficiently than we are, or if we're not using it at all.
100% agree, man. I think that's such a better approach to life in general, is to just have a learner's mentality and just try to get a little bit better every single day, instead of trying to plan for the future. I know there's a lot of like doom and gloom in the design in tech in general. It's like AI is going to replace all of our jobs, and it's kind of this like future projection thing. But if you just approach it like what you do, you're sharing your content as well, which is I think, very valuable. You're being vulnerable in what you don't know, which is really like it makes you more authentic in that approach too. And the more you do every single day, the better you get. And you look back, like you said, like 6 months ago, and you're like, I didn't know hardly any of the stuff that I know now, you know? And I think that perspective is what you need to like thrive, but also like what I think designers can do is learn from these types of things, you know, like what you've shared today. So thank you,
Yeah.
man, so much for walking us through this and walking me through it. Where can people find you? I'm going to link everything in the show notes. I would, you know,
Sure.
do you want more beta users on the Recipe Vault app? Like what else?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you want to point
Of
people
course,
to?
yeah, yeah. I'd love some beta testers. It's just a Vercel link, so we can include that. I'm not having it point to any domain yet, so it's not easily. I'm not able to easily um, riff it off the top
Share
of
it.
my
Yeah.
head. But yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Andy Weir. My portfolio is andyryanweir.com. There's plenty. All of my links to all my socials are on my portfolio, so it's probably going to be easiest to find me through my portfolio,
Cool.
andyryanweir.com. Yeah, I have a feedback. Let me pull this up. On my portfolio, I have a feedback button down here in the bottom left corner that opens a modal, and this is sent to me in an email. What's on your mind? Optionally include an email. If you have any feedback, if you notice anything on my website that's weird and buggy. Another really cool, fun feature that I added was this like theme switcher. That I just like
Oh, that's cool.
there's like no like actual like value to this other than like it was really fun
It looks
to
cool.
just kind of like add. But yeah, I'm sure there's like weird bugs throughout the app, and so if you see something, say something, and yeah, let's get in touch.
That's awesome, man. This is great. Thanks again, Andy. I appreciate it, man. And I'm sure I'll see you in person soon at one of the local meetups.
Of course, yeah, thanks for having me again, Cam.
Man.
This is great. Always great to have a conversation with you, and looking forward to doing it again soon.